I see so many horrible, miserable marriages. You know, you say, yeah, like if they don't do it like this, it's not gonna last. Sometimes they just live together, but they hate each other, you know? And it's so
Like
sad
roommates.
to see.
Yes.
It's so sad to see that this is how many marriages are. And sometimes when they're at the point of divorce and then they come see a priest, a lot of the time they come and they don't want to solve it. You know, they want to.
They're done at that point.
And I just
made
tell
the
them like,
decision.
okay, then our meeting is done because I'm only here to help you solve the marriage. And then we talk for a little bit.
I was looking for lobs so we could spike, you know, help each other out in episode. Instead, I became a football. Kick back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Wasn't that bad?
No. You know what? The editor.
This is episode 49. Almost at 50.
49.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long has this been?
Season one
we're not doing seasons anymore.
Okay.
We're just doing
episodes.
So yeah, it's been.
You guys have been doing great.
It's like
You
a
guys
year
have been
and a
doing
half
a
or
very
something.
good
Yeah.
job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan,
Thank you,
watch
sister.
out. I'm joking. He's like at 3,000. I don't know what he's at. He's at some crazy.
Brother
number.
Sinan, you've been on the show before, but not with the sisters, right?
Nope. First time with
Nice.
the sisters.
Yeah, last time, Brother
Hi,
Augustine.
brother.
Strength in numbers. I feel much better now. That was that episode we won't talk about.
Did you guys watch that episode? It
I
was a
saw
couple
short
weeks
clips.
ago. Okay.
Yeah, short clips.
It
I
was
was
me
looking
and
for
Father
lobs.
Danny and
Hey.
Father Roni.
Listen, I was looking for lobs so we could spike, you know, help each other out in episode. Instead, I became a football. Kick back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Wasn't that bad?
No. You know what? The editors are amazing. God bless the editors.
They're doing great. Thank God for editing.
Yeah.
What did we talk about that day?
I couldn't even say one quote about
Oh,
Saint
because
Margaret Mary.
we mentioned Saint Margaret Mary.
Yeah.
At the end, you were saying something about the heart of Jesus.
Yes, exactly.
Which that's what we're going to talk about for today, actually.
Sacred
because,
Heart, huh?
Yeah,
Pretty
because
true.
he was mentioning a quote and he completely butchered it.
Yeah.
And so Father Danny and I were kind of trolling him for it. And then he was like looking it up on his phone and then he couldn't find it. And then he tried to say it out of memory, but then he couldn't say it and stuff.
Because I got taken back to like, you know, being bullied when I was like 5 years old.
Oh,
You know,
your
you know,
inner child was
that's
being
it,
triggered.
Yeah, 100%. It's okay. No, Father Danny did apologize before the dessert.
Yeah, he did.
You
did
Today is your
apologize?
day to redeem
He did.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you look up the quote at least this time, or do you know
I
it?
know it by heart. I
Okay.
promise you I do. Okay.
Okay. The reason why we're doing this is because the day after this episode is released is the Feast of the Sacred Heart, which is always the last Friday of the month of June, right?
Yes.
Usually. Yeah.
It's the Friday after the Corpus Christi's feast day.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
which
right.
is Corpus Christi is going to be on this coming Thursday,
Yeah.
June.
So that's when the last episode will be
Yes.
released, actually. So
But we're in the month-
start us off with that quote, please.
Okay.
And we'll just go from there.
Here you go.
Behold this heart which has so loved men, yet is so little loved. That was
Oh, it's beautiful. I read this quote actually on back home. We used to have these pictures for Sacred Heart of Jesus, and in Arabic, هذا هو القلب الذي أحب العالم.
Okay.
So it was a beautiful quote. I used to read it when I was young. Yeah, but I didn't know like that was the quote of Jesus to Saint Mary Margaret.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
yeah.
it's beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So can we first talk about the nature of, just a little bit, the nature of apparitions and devotions? Because when people hear you say this is a quote of Jesus,
Yeah.
they know that Jesus has quotes in the Bible, right? From Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and those are the only books in the Bible that have quotes. So of what he actually said, right? When he was walking in this earth. So can we talk first about the nature of these devotions, apparitions? Like what are they? How do they happen? And do we need to believe in them? You know, things like that.
Yes.
What do you guys think?
These apparitions, of course, like Jesus, he's the one who appeared to Saint Margaret Alacoque. She was a nun in French,
Yeah.
visitation order. And he's the one who recommended to her, or he told her that he needs this bread for his devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And it was because for reparation of sins, for mortification, sanctification. So he's the one who told her this. So it's a beautiful devotion
Yeah.
that came to our church, even as a Chaldean church, which a lot of solidarity or akhawiyat.
Yeah.
We have them. Actually, they are the one, I feel like they are the pillar of the church with their prayers, that a lot of women will like meet every Friday and they will pray for the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And through these prayers or these solidarity, the devotion of the Sacred Heart is started from in our church and a lot of churches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
amazing.
church looks at apparitions very carefully, right?
Yeah.
To make sure like this is nothing contrary to divine revelation tradition.
Yeah.
If correct me if I'm wrong, canon law lawyer guy. So I believe for apparitions, like the church approves it and says, yes, this is something can lead to sanctification, can lead to holiness, but it's not necessary if
So it says worthy of belief.
Worthy of belief, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody says, hey, like I don't want to have a devotion to the Sacred Heart, this is not something that I feel called to, does it mean that this person's going to lose eternal salvation, or we have to force them into believing that the Sacred Heart of Jesus is the only way that you're going to obtain holiness, sanctification? You know, it's up to that person whether they want to have that devotion. But I love how the church in her wisdom, right? We have liturgical seasons where the church is saying like, we need to zoom in here. This is the spirituality of the season of the church now. And I love how outside of that, like zooming out, we have months of Mary, months of the Sacred Heart. And the church is saying, hey, like, let's look at the heart of Jesus. Let's look at his humanity, you know, a time of like, not just to think about intellectual knowledge, but to look at his heart and for us to even check where our hearts are. Like, is it far from God? Is it close to God? And a time where like, wow, Jesus is giving us his heart. Like, what does that mean for me on a personal level, you know?
And actually, Jesus asked St. Mary Margaret to have this devotion or the Feast of Sacred Heart on the last Friday of the month, which is 8 days away from the Corpus Christi. It's because the heart of Jesus, we find him in the Holy Eucharist. And correct me for a lot of apparition or the Eucharistic miracle, when they did like the scientific matters regarding the body of Jesus, they found it was muscles from the heart of Jesus. So it's beautiful, like that connection is through the heart of Jesus. I mean, through the Holy Eucharist, we are finding the heart of Jesus, the love. So
is that how the one in Lanciano is, Italy? You guys saw it on your trip, and we saw it on ours.
It was the muscle,
It was the muscle,
believe so.
the inner muscle of the heart of Jesus, and it was life. So
do you guys know the story of that apparition?
Lanciano
Was when the priest was doubting?
yes.
Yes, if I'm going to misquote it, but it was, I believe, a monk priest. And I'm not a priest, but he was doubting
justifying
during
himself.
Mass, and then it started to drip blood in his hands
Yes.
onto the altar cloth, and that's when he started to cry. And then he said, because he was doubting, and he knew only God knew that, so he started to kind of like pronounce to everybody. He's like, you know, God has seen that a sinner like myself would receive such a great sign because I doubted in my heart. And then everyone like kind of like came closer and started to like weep with him and recognize that this was a miracle. But then of course he ran to his bishop and told him everything that had happened. And then that's when they saved the cloth and all of that. So
and they saved the actual host, which turned into the
Like
muscle
flesh.
of the heart,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, and it's been scientifically studied. I mean, there were so many in the exhibit that we were looking at in Lanciano. They had like, I mean, frame after frame and a lot of information.
Scientists that are not related to the church. They're secular.
Yes.
Yes,
Right? Yeah.
exactly. And they withhold information on purpose, and they'll bring the best scientists of that day to see, okay, and they'll give them the piece of heart, and they'll study it, and then at the
They'll
end,
just give it to them and not say like this is from a
is the
church.
church.
They'll
No,
just
no.
say what is this,
yeah,
right?
yeah. They're even
Okay.
probably are far removed from even how it gets transported there, so that there's not even like a semblance of it being part of a church. I don't know how much they go to like pain to make sure that nothing is skewed. And then the science is pretty objective in all of them. It is the same blood type. It is always, I think, if I could be corrected, but I believe it's always a piece of heart. You know, we haven't had Jesus' toe or anything like that.
That'd be pretty cool. I'd be happy with that.
It's always his heart, which is very poetic, very beautiful, because they say like the heart is the crown of the soul. Like that's where, you know, everything abides that is true and good in us. And you know, get it off your heart. What's on, you know, get it off your chest. Like we even in colloquial terms, but Jesus is giving us, communicating to us his heart. And I think some of the greatest saints knew that, you know, Lord, give me, even Saint David going back, right? Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me. So what heart is there better than the, you know, the sacred heart of Jesus, which actually beat on this earth and was alive and walked.
It was flesh. Like our God like had an actual heart just to even think that, like, and even in heaven, there's two hearts, Mary and Jesus. Like, there is a
actual human hearts.
there's like, and like, I don't know, that's like amazing to think about, like how, like, God is not just up in the cosmos, like he took on flesh, like he took on a heart, like just like us. And I love like what the catechism says. It's like the heart is the center of the person. It's where we choose death or life. It's of the moral conscience that we pray. When we pray, you can't just pray with words, you have to pray with your heart. And not Saint Francis, Pope Francis, I love in his letter that he wrote last year about the heart. He said, the heart, when you look at the heart, the illusions and the mask have to fall because you're dealing with your true self. You can't hide. You can't, like, it's a secret place. And I love how the catechism says it's the indwelling of God. It's where we encounter God is in our heart. And then, like, here you have Jesus. Like, when you think about it, like, right, like when like we enter into relationships, we say, my heart got broken. Like if there's a violation of the relationship, like my heart got broken. And like here you have Jesus, like so vulnerable. He has no defense mechanisms. Like he lets that all fall to us. Like he allows us to hurt him. Like he gives us his heart with no walls up, giving us that opportunity to either reject him or accept him, which is very hard of why sometimes we have defense mechanisms, because we're scared that if I open my heart to you, that's a possibility you could reject me and you could hurt me. But like Jesus is so secure in himself. He possesses himself. He's so secure in his identity. He's so secure in his relationship with his Father that he's willing to fully make himself a gift to humanity. And like that type of love heals our wounded hearts. That's a type of heart where we could go to and feel safe, secure, love, warmth. And even like you see his heart's on fire.
Yeah.
And I think he even says to Margaret Mary, like, my heart is consuming me. Like I have so much love in me that these flames are consuming me. Like he just wants to pour his love out. But going back to the Eucharist and that time of the 17th century, Jansenism, heresy was spreading rapidly to where they were teaching, like, it was very morally rigorous, and they taught like only holy people, like if you were really, really holy, you only had right to receive Holy Communion. And so everybody was scared of God. They weren't visiting the Blessed Sacrament, nor were they receiving Holy Communion. And that was hurting the heart of Jesus. And Jesus could have said, me dying and rising is enough for you guys. Like, I can't prove anymore that I love you guys. But then here we go. He's like, I can't take it. Like, I can't take not having my children come to me. I can't take not having this covenant relationship with you, because even the heart is a place of covenant. And he reveals his heart to this nun. And he's like, I can't take any more ingratitude, indifference towards the sacrament of love. It's killing me. It's hurting me. And here she is. She responds to that love.
Yeah. This reminds me of the story we all know in the Gospel of John at the end, when St. Thomas was doubting and he wasn't there when Jesus came, and he was making these statements saying, I'm not going to believe unless I see the mark, unless I see him, and unless I see the mark of the piercing in his side and the nails, and I put my hand in there and in his side. And Jesus appeared to him and he told him, Thomas, come, put your hand here. Don't be unbelieving, but believe. And so he met him at his level, and he opened his heart to him. Literally, he like opened up his side to him. And so then Thomas is able to go in there and to see what Jesus endured for him, for his lack of faith. And while he was doubting, and while he had even ran away from the crucifixion of Christ, this is what he was doing. And now he's inviting him to come into that. And so he met Thomas in his brokenness and in his weakness, and he showed him, I've been broken too. I've been hurt for you, just like you said, and like it says in the book of Isaiah, by his wounds we are healed. Yeah.
The wounded healer, right?
Yeah.
The wounded healer.
I think all of us are, to some degree, wounded healers, right? Because God comes to us in our woundedness, and then through that, he shines through to others who can then now relate to where our place of brokenness was. I remember like the analogy of like a pot that has like, openings in it, and it's dripping out all the water. It can't hold, the base like that's dripping. But really, the path that you're walking, you're actually watering everywhere that you go. And so I think all of us, our brokenness sometimes is something that we want to hide and be shamed, have shame be the way that we actually deal with it. But actually, our brokenness is where the light shines through. And I think that's a very powerful kind of image for me as well. It's like, if God is being so vulnerable, he's asking me to be vulnerable back to him.
Yes.
And it's an invitation. So, I have something I want to bounce off of that. If you said scripturally, I love how you said, because that's one of my kind of defenses for the divine mercy, is that God's mercy didn't stop on Easter Sunday. It actually went through locked doors to Thomas the Apostle, who was actually the first, like, let's say, scientific empiricist. Like, I got to see it to believe it, and I could totally relate to him. And then he let him touch his wound, and that's when he dropped to his knees and said, "My Lord and my God." So I think there's even scriptural evidence of, let's say, divine mercy breaking through locked doors when they're all afraid. And so that's how I see that. But then go back to the Sacred Heart. I really think, like, just one little maybe like ember of its start is at the Last Supper, when the beloved disciple Saint John puts his head on Jesus' heart.
Yes.
I think that's such an intimate encounter, and I think that's what he's doing for Saint Margaret Mary and all of us. He's inviting us to like a more intimate relationship with him, because there are so many people who do not have that relationship, and sometimes it's us that need that reminder through these kinds of devotions. So I see these more like organic kind of messages for our time, yet they're not as you was alluding to, and you said perfectly, they're not at the same level of scripture. No way am I going to quote St. Margaret Mary's quote of Jesus at the same level of what Christ says, Truly, truly, I say to you, it's not going to be on the same level as what scripture is. And the church has shown that and said that, yes, these can be worthy of belief and they can be an aid, but at the same time, they're not necessary for your salvation by any means. But I think a heart that's looking and is sensitive to what God is doing will see that these are beautiful devotions that can
there's
draw
like
you
a
deeper.
harmony too, like there's a harmony to it. Yeah, it's a continuation. Like, it's really beautiful how,
like, when you look at an image of the Sacred Heart, right? Like, we are human beings and we're weak, and we sometimes need things like this. We need a physical reminder. Thomas needed it, and we sometimes need things like that to motivate us and to help us understand the fact that God did become a man, and that he actually sacrificed himself, and he actually opened his heart. His heart was pierced. And so these things remind us of that and of our humanity as well, that we need to unite our humanity to the humanity of Christ.
It's just like a snacks, to be honest, like to keep you going. That's what it is. And even Jesus, who he has like the 12 promises for his Sacred Heart, I'll mention later. One of them is to honor this image. Of course, we don't worship the statues or the image. It's literally, like you said, Father, is a reminder. And one of them is when you look at the picture of, or the image of Jesus, the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and you see that flame and those drop of blood and the crowns
and
of
the
thorns.
Piercing
And the piercing was like, wow, there is nothing pleasing about this picture. It's like bloody, is crown of thorns. But you can tell there's a lot of love. No one will do this for someone, like, even, I never heard like a human beings that went through this suffering for someone that they love, if like Jesus, he did for the humanity. And not only like for the humanity as a general, but for each one of us on a personal level. And that's, it takes us to the relationship with Jesus. Because that I know Jesus, I know a lot about him, I read about him, I pray a lot of prayers, but nothing like having that personal relationship with him, especially in the Blessed Sacraments, which takes me to the heart of Jesus. So it's beautiful.
We need this, especially for the culture that we live in now, and especially with all of the, when we speak about heart, we're talking about love, right? We need this for the marriages that are failing now in this world. And, because marriage and relationships are the most intimate you can get with a person. And unfortunately, so many people, they give in to their own selfishness, and because this option of how to act and how to treat another person, you will never think of it as a human being. You'll never think like, oh, I should sacrifice. I should go and give of myself. I should go say sorry. I should go apologize. You won't think of that. That's not a human inclination. Your human inclination is, and it's because of your sinfulness, is to dominate, is to try to be right, is to try to have
Defense
control.
mechanism.
Yeah, defend yourself. But this is the and I say human inclination because of sin, but this is the real human inclination, is the sacrifice, that because he's the real human being, the one, and so he sacrificed himself. And that's why, like in the Bible, when it speaks about marriage, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So this is how spouses need to love each other. They need to sacrifice of themselves in that way. Spouses, those in communities of consecrated life, priests with each other, all of that. And if we did that, then we'd have a much more peaceful world.
It's beautifully said, Father, because I believe this. It's a relationship won't be safe if there is no sacrifice. Jesus restored his relationship with us by his sacrificial love on the cross. He gave himself to us on the cross, and he saved that relationship. Yep. And the same thing with the spouses. If there is no sacrifice in this relationship, in this love, it won't last. So sacrifice is very important in a relationship.
Well, it's beautiful too, as you were speaking. It's so amazing how the Bible starts with a wedding, Genesis, Adam and Eve, and it ends with a wedding, Revelations. And everything in between that Bible is the bridegroom calling his bride to himself. Yeah. And that's what God is constantly doing. He's constantly calling his bride to himself. Who's the bride? The church. Who's the church? We are. And it's like this covenant relationship that God is constantly calling us into. And like you could see that in the Sacred Heart, where like he's yearning for our love. And even like I love in the scriptures where there's times where God will call his people prostitutes when they're unfaithful to him. Like he even like, he'll say, like, you're unfaithful to me. You're behaving like prostitutes. Like, you're cheating on me. You're going after idols. I'm your God. I'm Yahweh. I'm the one who loves you. I'm the one who gives you purpose, who's going to give you salvation, who's going to give you life. Come to me. And, like, you see it again. He's calling his bride to himself. Here's my heart. It's on fire for you. I love you. There's nothing that I don't want to give you. Like, I'm completely vulnerable for you. But it's like, where are our hearts for God? Where is our hearts for each other? Like, is it we just want to grasp and take without making a gift of ourselves? And that's not easy, right? But he teaches us what it means to be fully human. And I think that's why God took on flesh, right? He teaches us what it means to be fully alive, fully human, and to make a gift of yourself. He's the standard model.
Yeah.
What it means to be human.
This is the only way.
Yeah.
This is what I tell married couples, by the way, when I sit and they don't always listen because a lot of the time they come when it's too late, maybe. But even though it's never too late.
It's never late, yeah.
And I tell them it's never too late, and you have to trust in Jesus. You have to trust that if you do it the way of Jesus, you can have peace. You can have true joy in your life. Because honestly, I see so many horrible, miserable marriages. You say, like if they don't do it like this, it's not going to last. Sometimes they just live together, but they hate each other. You know? And it's so like sad roommates. To see.
Yes.
It's so sad to see that this is how many marriages are. And sometimes when they're at the point of divorce and then they come see a priest, usually, I should say a lot of the time they come and they don't want to solve it. They want to.
They're done at that point.
And I just tell them like, okay, then our meeting is done because I'm only here to help you solve the marriage. Exactly. And then we talk for a little bit, and then I tell them about the heart of Jesus and about how they have to sacrifice for each other, and they've never heard this stuff before about how you have to like you should do that, and that's going to save your marriage. They don't believe it, and they're not willing to try most of the time. Sometimes they are, and I've seen some cases where it definitely works out, but that's the only way. Because
marriage is 3 persons, not 2. It's not only the spouses, it's not husband and wife. It's the husband, wife, and God. If it's only 2 people, only them, so they will need to bring Jesus in order for the relation to be saved.
Yep.
That's beautifully said, because the horizontal is going to get tough and it's going to run out, but the vertical is what's going to continue to inundate and give you the grace to continue to forgive and to love. But if both are not looking at God as their goal, then that's when they get stuck in the minutia, and the small things become big things. And before you know it, you're just spinning your wheels and not understanding why me, and becomes kind of self-fulfilling. But I wanted to say something that was really impactful for me. There's I think his cause is up. His name is Father John Hardin, a very holy Jesuit priest, and passed away probably a little while back now. But there's there's a YouTube video I showed my catechism class just on Saturday. It's 3 minutes 33 seconds, and honestly, it was about devotion to the Sacred Heart in 3 minutes and 33 seconds. I wish I could be that.
I think he has a long book on that, by the way. Actually,
he does.
Yeah.
And so I love how pithy and how sometimes he gives you a huge thing in a very, very punchy kind of way. I think all the saints know how to distill information and give you just the heart of it.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said is you know what? The entire devotion of the Sacred Heart is pretty much can be summarized as self-sacrificial love. It is really facing all of your prejudices, all your fears, all your ultimately it's loving your enemy, and it's calling you out of yourself. And that's why this devotion is so important for our times today. Like it was back in the time of Jansenism. I think we have heresies kind of being recapitulated, just repackaged in different ways, Gnosticism and things like that, where it's how can our God take on human flesh? Well, not just that, God is kind of doubling down with this devotion,
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
And it's very powerful to me to think wow, God is going to challenge me until my dying day. If I have something still in me about some pet peeve or whatever, then get ready, because he's going to challenge it, and I get to respond either his way or my own way, and then kind of mea culpa, and hit the mic. So. I might show up on it. We got editors.
So, Sister, can you tell us a little bit about the promises, about what, what the context of them is? So Jesus said it to St. Margaret Mary, and what they are, please.
So actually,
you came prepared.
Yeah, because I will never remember them like that. So the first time Jesus appeared to her was on June 16. He appeared. She was praying, and he appeared on the altar, and he said, "Behold the heart that has so loved man, that it has spared nothing, even exhausting and consuming itself to testify to its love. In recognition I receive from the greater part of men only ingratitude, by their irreverence and sacrilegious, by their coldness and the contempt they have for me in this sacraments of love." And the sacraments of love is the Eucharist. So Jesus, he said, he promised the devotion to the Sacred Heart, that whoever has this devotion, I will give them all the graces necessary in their state of life. I will establish peace in their homes. I will comfort them in all their afflictions. I will be their secure refuge during life, and above all in death, which is so important. And I will bestow abundant blessing upon all their undertakings. Sinners will find in my heart the source and infinite ocean of mercy. We talked about the divine mercy.
Are these the promises that you're reading?
Yes, the 12 promises. Yes, lukewarm souls shall become fervent. Fervent soul shall quickly mount to high perfection. I will bless every place in which the image of the sacred of my heart is exposed and honored. Like we said, we honor the image, is not like a worship. I will give the priest the gift of touching the most hardened hearts. Your blessed Father. Then he said, those who shall promote this devotion shall have their names written in my heart. I promise you in the excessive mercy of my heart that my all-powerful love will grant to all those who receive Holy Communion on the first Friday for 9 months. He will give the grace of perseverance. They shall not die in my disgrace, nor without receiving their sacraments. My divine heart shall be their safe refuge in this last moment. So these are their very beautiful promises for Jesus
Count me in.
Definitely.
So you just have to have an image of the Sacred Heart?
Like to honor the Sacred Heart. Of Jesus.
So like if a family, wants these promises for their self, for their kids, they could just put the Sacred Heart image in their house?
And of course, he mentioned the promises of going to confession. I mean, the Holy Eucharist. But of course,
they have to do all those things.
Yes, like the sacraments of reconciliation or the confession, the Holy Communion, spreading the devotion.
And that makes you, And that makes you treat it not as like a magic wand, right?
Yes.
Like, kind of like how some people treat the scapular, because there's a thing written on it, like if you wear this, you're not going to hell. So no, like you wear it, and then you think you can just
you're gonna go straight. That's
like do whatever you want.
Fire insurance. Fire insurance.
Like Mama Mary got me. It's all good
Exactly.
if I wear
That's
this.
not like it doesn't mean you can go do whatever you want, because there's like fine print,
Yes,
that says you have to go to confession. You can't, you have to be in the state of grace. You have to receive the Eucharist. These are all things we know based on the scriptures and based on what the church teaches us. And these things are great helps for us to get to that point of sanctification and of holiness.
And you know what I think where it comes down to is relationship. He's calling us into a relationship with him. Like the way he's speaking is it's love language. Like, I'm tired of like the irreverence, the slothfulness, the ingratitude, and like his heart is hurting. Like we literally hurt God's heart. Like when we go to Holy Communion, like what's sacrilegious? Sacrilegious could be me receiving Eucharist in the state of mortal sin, me not examining myself before I approach Holy Communion. And I think it's a reminder for us, like, do we truly believe in the holy presence of, like, do we truly believe in the presence of the Eucharist? Like, Jesus fully dwells body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist. And I think it makes me check myself, right? Like, as religious sisters, we live in a convent with Jesus. It could be so easy of, like, going and, like, passing by the chapel and not even showing reverence that he's there, like, with a bow, with a proper bow. Like, sometimes you don't even see that anymore. Like, bowing before you sit in the pew. Why are we bowing? Because the presence of God is in the Holy Eucharist. And I think like that's what he's kind of calling. What's reverence? Like reverence is it's showing honor that Jesus, your Lord, your King, and it's bowing to that. It's worshiping. It's saying, Jesus, like, I want you to take residence in my heart. I give you my heart. So I think too, it's we could check ourselves as like, am I showing reverence and gratitude and love for him in the Eucharist when I come to Mass? Do I examine my conscience before I go to confession?
This is one of the reasons why when, like you guys have seen me get very upset when the youth group kids are in the church and they're like talking and like laughing and stuff like that. And I tell them that the reason why I get upset and why I want you guys to be quiet and respectful in the church is because, obviously, because the body of Jesus is here. You're in the presence of the body of Jesus, and if you cannot sit in silence in the presence of the body of Jesus, you're not going to enjoy heaven. Because that's what heaven is. Heaven is being with God. It's that relationship. And so, I want to talk to my friends and I want to hang out, or like, let's say I want to watch a football game, instead of go to Mass on Sunday or do whatever. But me going and sitting there and doing my best, although maybe my heart is not in the right place, but I go, that's what's going to form me. That's what's going to prepare me to actually be reverent and to actually receive the graces that are waiting for me in that sacrament. And make my heart kind of burn with love for the heart of Jesus, like how his heart burns for me, And
it takes a lot to get you mad, Father. So I have to say that's worthy of seeing you upset for. It's very rare where Father Simon is getting mad at the teens.
Yeah, sometimes. So we have a new segment now in our show where we talk about something that the Pope said in the past week or two. Pope Leo.
Okay.
And we don't have a name for it. We could talk about it during the cheesecake time. We'll get ideas from you guys. But so actually, I was just reading like usually we get like a random quote that he said and just talk about it, even if it doesn't have to do with the topic. But I was reading his message. I don't know if you guys saw. He did a video for the youth in Chicago this week. He did a video message. They were all gathered at the Chicago White Sox stadium, and he's a big fan of the team. And so a lot of people were gathered there, and the Vatican called this message his message for the youth of Chicago and the world, which was cool. And so he doesn't mention the Sacred Heart directly, but he speaks about our heart and God's heart. So I want to read one part of what he says now, and then maybe another one later. And I want to see what you guys think. He quotes Saint Augustine in like almost every single one of his homilies or speeches. He's Augustinian, yeah. So here he quotes probably the most famous quote of Saint Augustine. He says, "We all live with many questions in our hearts. Saint Augustine speaks so often of our restless hearts and says, our hearts are restless until they rest in you, O God. That restlessness is not a bad thing, and we shouldn't look for ways to put out the fire, to eliminate or even numb ourselves to the tensions that we feel, the difficulties that we experience. We should rather get in touch with our own hearts and recognize that God can work in our lives, and through us to reach out to other people."
Wow.
Beautiful.
I think it's
pretty cool.
It has
huh?
a lot to do with this
Yeah,
topic.
I know.
Like,
Wow.
Yeah.
it's kind of like
cool?
what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Like getting in touch with our hearts, like checking our hearts. Like, where's our hearts at?
Yeah.
Like,
Because there's that prayer in the Sacred Heart devotion where it says, "Make our hearts like unto thine."
Yeah.
وَذْلِبًا دِمْدَامًا لِبُّ قَدِيشًا, right? Yeah. So that's what we have to get to.
Yeah.
That's the point that we have to get to.
to make our hearts more like
okay.
his,
Yeah.
and I think we'd see a lot less divorce. If
Yeah,
our hearts
exactly.
look like more like Jesus.
Yeah.
One thing that came to me, sorry,
Go ahead.
if you want to go first.
No, please.
Okay,
You've been too
so,
quiet, brother. I'm concerned.
I know.
No, we've been talking too
That's
much.
not Brother Sinan.
Bishop Sheen,
Yes.
this made me feel a lot like more peace, and it kind of connects to what our pontiff said, Pope Leo XIV. He said, "Don't like run away from that restlessness." Where in the beginning, like when I first discovered adoration, it was the greatest joy, and then at some point I realized, wait, is everybody going through like when I first enter the chapel and I'm now face to face with Jesus, heart to heart, right? There's a restlessness, there's a kind of like agitation until I finally just can let everything be at the feet of Christ. And I think Bishop Sheen helped me by saying the first 15 minutes of adoration, because he made a vow to God after he became a priest to never miss a holy hour. And he kept his end of the deal. No matter where he was preaching, he'd find a chapel somewhere and do his holy hour. And he would also offer mass every single day. And I think when he said the first 15 minutes of adoration is scrubbing the world off, I kind of saw that you're coming in with all these ideas. Absurdities are going to come to your mind. Did I leave the stove on? You know, random stuff is going to happen. And it's all of that. I'm like, all that agitation leads to this peace later. If I just persevere and just let it go.
Sometimes it lasts the whole hour.
And God really wants to.
If you get advanced in holiness.
Well, when you're a secular priest, you got a lot of
so much.
scrubbing.
yeah.
But I call it being a chicken with your head cut off. Everywhere. That's going to be on the thing. But literally, you have a head, you have no direction. They already don't like they have that much direction, right? But
like
imagine
that
a chicken with its head cut off.
I hope
And
that's
it's
a
like-
short clip.
yeah.
They make that.
They're going to call that.
Just that. Don't give me 2 minute short clip. I want 3 seconds.
I have to, yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
But
We'll make it like 30 seconds, but like that in there.
I love that, brother. Wow.
please tell them about the cow. The cow that stepped up to us. Please tell them.
What happened again?
Bro, okay, so we're at a retreat.
Okay.
And a cow literally comes to our entire crew.
Oh yeah.
Okay? He comes up to our entire crew and just like starts mooing from his whole
Like he was like from here to the wall. Like that's how close he was.
and we were not budging. We're like, do whatever you want, buddy, you know? And then he got closer and the kids started running away.
You guys irritate
They got
him
scared,
probably.
yeah. And he started mooing even louder, you know? And so I made a pun because we've been on a pun.
yeah.
We've been on a pun thing. So I said, why did the cow, step up to us but then back down? Because he didn't want to musculate.
I just
This time you said it
How
right.
did we get from folding sheets to this cow?
We're going back. My personality is crazy. It just works in crazy ways. But no, I love that the fact that God is drawing us to himself, and ultimately we all are kind of like boiling kettles that need to be in God's presence in order to simmer down and to really recognize, like you said earlier, everything falls away in front of the truth. And when we have a heart to heart with God himself, we can't hide anymore. And I think that's the most beautiful thing is that, all of us are trying to examine ourselves and understand, but we don't even know how to begin to do that. And God is the only way that
I think
we can understand ourselves and actually make sense of all the craziness that we're going through every single day, because it doesn't make sense until you realize love itself came to his own people and was rejected. And who am I to think that it's going to be all roses in this life? And
Oh, trust.
Preach, brother.
Yes. is I think the distraction of this life really takes us away from what our heart is dealing with, our relationship with Jesus. Just yesterday, we were walking by the water, and there was like a group of young people who were all sitting, and like it was so beautiful. You could like the water, the air, the grass, and everything, but they were all like sitting next to each other on their phones, very distracted with what is happening. Like they have no idea what is around them. In my head and my heart, I was like, guys, can you put your phones down, touch the grass, face each other, talk to each other, heart to heart, personal relationship with each other. And that's why it's the same thing with Jesus, to be honest. Like all these distractions are taken away from Jesus, taken us away from his real presence. We're in the world where there's artificial intelligence, and we all know it's artificial, fake. But Jesus is the real presence in our lives. So when we run from reality, when we numb ourselves, is through this now technology. But we have to be very wise in how to use it and how to stay in the real presence of Jesus in this real life, to treat each other as human beings and not as artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's what the Pope was alluding to, is that we were going to run to something just to like put a Band-Aid on something that needs actual surgery, or we're going to just kind of distract ourselves with maybe something, video games, whether it's food, whether
Something
it's social
temporary.
media.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing to do. He says the restlessness is not a bad thing. Sometimes we'll feel like, like you mentioned, the 15 minutes up to an hour.
Scrubbing the world off.
Yeah. Like you feel like you're such a crappy person, like when that happens, right? But he's saying you shouldn't feel like that. Like this is natural. Like you're a human being. You have your weaknesses. So don't run away from it, but instead get in touch with our own hearts and recognize that God can work in our lives. So to have our hearts have a direct encounter with the heart of Jesus. That's what it's all about. So you bring your heart, not a fake heart, your heart, right? Like your heart as it is. And you bring that to Christ, and then you're going to allow him to work in you and to and you're going to maximize abundantly the graces that you can receive from those moments.
we don't need to pretend it or fake it with Jesus.
Yeah.
But
He
I
knows
think
why.
sometimes, like thinking about my own self, I'm sure priests and religious, we could relate to this, right? Is like sometimes we're scared to look at our hearts to actually see what we'll find there, right? And it's important for us. God's not scandalized by your heart.
Yeah,
Like God's
exactly.
not,
He can handle it.
He can handle it. Like he's not
Yeah.
scandalized by what's in your heart. So you don't need to be scandalized by what's in your heart. He knows that. And just to remember, like you're coming into the presence of a loving God. He's not like, sometimes we still have Jansenist mindsets where we think he's going to condemn us. He's going to spit fire from heaven. He's going to smite us. But like Jesus is like, yeah, he's the Lamb of God and he's the Lion of Judah, but he's both. And like he's the God who gives us his heart. Like he's not going to smite us if you find there's areas of your heart that's still impure. That's okay. Because when you come to him, he's going to make you pure.
Yeah.
It's when we come to him, like you said, it's when he's going to fill us. He makes us chaste. He makes us whole again.
Yeah.
But it's okay if you bring those parts to your hearts, the parts that we don't like, the parts that we run away from. We could bring that to him without any shame, without condemnation, and to allow him to love us in those parts of our hearts where they ache, and to give him permission to love us there.
Yeah, I mean,
One thing that the mystics kind of share in common is the intimacy that they have with God. And I think this devotion is calling us to that kind of intimacy, that it is possible if you really desire. Because like St. Faustina, for example, there was a priest going to stay at their convent in a different wing and everything. And so she made a nice bouquet of flowers to go put in his room for hospitality.
Oh, it was a priest?
Yeah, it was a priest. And this is from her diary.
Okay,
And as she was taking the bouquet of flowers, which is a very hospitable thing.
yeah.
And then he just asked her one question.
Yeah.
I like whether it was my daughter, but he addressed her and he said, my daughter, like, who are those flowers for? And just that questioning, that heart to heart between her and God, she recognized there was something impure, not good in her heart of the reason she was doing it. She looked at her motives, she reanalyzed everything, and she started to weep.
She dropped the vase.
Yeah. And that's so it's like,
ran away.
so like God knows us. Everything we do is leavened with a lot of that kind of stuff. And if we just trusted that he's actually out for our good, and he's not looking for an opportunity to catch us, sinning or something like that. What
does intimacy mean? Into me. Intimacy means you are allowing somebody to look into me. Intimacy. So like it's giving God permission to look into me, and to see the unleavened areas of my heart where there's some things that are just not pure.
Yeah. And talk about the marriages. I think that's where they start to fall apart. Communication, when I see communication starting to fall apart, they're no longer intimate with one another.
Yeah.
And I tell people like a small little lie, or like the reason you went somewhere, maybe it was with your buddies and you smoked hookah or whatever, but you lied. You had to lie under that. Guys, you've created that little like incision in the marriage that's not only, it's going to one day lead to a Grand Canyon if you don't address it. And I think St. Thomas said this, St. Thomas Aquinas, small errors in the beginning lead to huge ones later. I think every heresy started maybe with even a pious like thought
or a good intention.
Something, or a good intention that the enemy was able to kind of exasperate and make a problem. And so it's kind of interesting how when you look at marriages, it's almost the same usual suspects. I mean, these, the spirits that are working to destroy, it's really, really recycling the same ideas as divide and conquer. And it starts with, if you guys just, even when you punish your children, be on the same page. I used to always go to my dad because he's going to say yes. My mom's going to say no. And I can catch them slipping. I'm through the cracks and I got what I wanted. Everyone is doing something in order to. Yeah. But when it's like when they go back into the wedding chamber and they talk, and if they can come up with a real agreement of what they're going to do, and when there is mistakes, they come back and they say, you know what, next time let's do this. It's just so beautiful. They continue to grow. Then instead of AI, they'll be evolving to saints.
Exactly.
That's why some couples get shocked when I advise them to go on dates with each other, because they think I'm just going to tell them they have to read the Bible and pray, which I obviously do. But honestly, most of the time when I see marital problems, I'll just like ask them, when's the last time you guys went on a date with each other and like just enjoyed yourself? Yeah. And usually they say like we can't even remember. And I say, you should be going like once a week at least. Just go enjoy yourselves. And they say, yeah, we don't do that. And I really encourage them to, because I know that that's a foundation for that intimacy to grow and to really grow into real love. Even if the love is cold and if it's not working well, they can do that so that they can reignite that fire for one another.
100%, because even Jesus with his disciples, where they were like, he sent the 72 disciples for mission. When they came back, he told them, come and rest for a while. It's not like something a shame, because that's the mistake is we have no time for ourselves right now. That's what the spouses will think. It's for our children now.
The kids, the work, and all this stuff.
But like in order for me to function for the next day, I need, as a sister, I need to sleep, I need to eat, I need to sit and pray in front of Jesus to recharge for the next day. So the same thing with the spouses. It's not like, in order for them to be able to raise these kids, they need to take care of themselves too.
Yeah, just like we need to spend time with each other and with Jesus, right? Like in a religious house, or like me with my brother priest, or with you guys. We need to spend time with each other, good quality time, so that our work in the parish is not just,
just
bland.
Works to do,
We spend time with each other, but we also spend very good quality time with the Lord in Eucharistic adoration and in Mass and in all the other prayers. And that's going to ignite our hearts to actually do things out of love. And it's going to make our work easier too.
Absolutely. Yes. Jesus teaches us how to love well.
Yeah.
Because I think loving well doesn't come easy for us because of the fall, and there was times when I think about it, I was like, I didn't love my sisters well. Like when I think about the formation house, I was like, I could have been a better lover. I could have loved that sister a lot better. And when I reflect back on my days in formation, which was not too long ago, and it's Jesus who teaches me how to love, because there's times where you want to use, you want to objectify, you want to all those you don't want to sacrifice, you just want to dismiss people. It's just easier for you to just ignore people, run from people, not to communicate your desires to your spouse. But when you look at Jesus, he communicates his desires to us. He had well mental health. He expressed his needs well. He ate. He prayed to the Father. He had recreation. He slept. He cried. He had ordered emotions at the proper time, and he was like, he's very integrated.
Yeah.
He's so integrated. And like when you look at yourself, you're like, wow, I'm so disintegrated.
Yeah.
But like you go to him to like for him to help you become a little bit more integrated and to help me love well. There's times where I was like, man, I'm not a good lover.
Unlike us, which could be summarized by this license plate I saw literally yesterday. It showed, Inside Out, the emotions.
Oh, yeah.
It showed every emotion, sadness, all of them were there, like, and then joy. She's obviously like off the hinges. And then it says it's complicated. So like sometimes we are just a ball of emotions and we don't know what's going on. And I think it's good to take all of that frenzy and just come to Christ anyway.
Yeah.
It's like somebody is saying, I don't want to go to mass because I fell into sin yesterday. I always tell people, go to mass because you still know that is what God is asking of you. Hear the homily. If there's a priest for confession, then of course go. But if there is not a priest for confession, still go to mass. Hear the homily. Start to like realize why you can't receive this week. Okay, not to like go on the Jansenism road because but the point is, yes, if there's an objective, mortal sin as we teach in the Catholic Church, don't receive, right? Because that's going to make you more aware, and then ultimately go to confession, and then receive in a state of grace, which we're still going to always be sinners, right? But the thing is, I guess hearing the homily, being in God's presence is going to make you start to salivate and to really pine away for God's love. And then you're going to start to reform things that that kept you away from him. And I feel like that's the dialogue you need to have. And it's like not running away from it. Oh, I can't go anyway. What's the point? I can't receive Jesus. And like kind of, so we look for excuses in order to kind of just get in that complacent state. But I think God is drawing us out of lukewarmness through this devotion.
And he says that. He says like, I'm tired of lukewarm and slothful souls.
Yeah.
I'm salivating now for the cheesecake that we're about to have, actually. Okay, so we got whatever cheesecake from Isabel.
Whatever.
And she's a aim leader for our middle school youth group. And you guys were wondering why we have this. What do you guys call it again?
Shira.
Shira.
Syrup for cheesecake.
But look at this. Ready? Because it's baklava cheesecake.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not expect that.
That's new.
Look how good this looks.
No.
Crazy.
So like the cheesecake is inside?
I think so. I've had hers when it was like a bigger cake, but this is
serious, by the way.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy.
I'm eating the whole thing.
It's
Yeah.
a process.
There you go, sister.
Thank you.
Wow. Whatever cheesecake. Shout out Isabel, thank you.
I love it.
Yeah. So
Probably
we'll take these also.
Goes with it.
People are just so creative nowadays. I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
Actually, I never thought about when you said cheesecake. I was like,
I know. That's why I wanted you to wait. So like, how did we eat this though? We just
so probably gonna put the syrup
right,
first.
bro.
This is disaster for you.
How are you gonna? I know. For the camera, it's gonna be crazy.
So first you take the syrup.
Okay, sister. Yeah, let's
put it on top.
Okay.
Oh wow! Look at that, sister.
I'm gonna turn it to He-Man
Okay.
and Shira right here.
So, are you gonna eat it with a fork and a thing? Because I
for
think
the
I'm
sake
gonna
of
bite
the program, probably yes.
All right. Just can
I
you
think
guys
we
not
men
look
can
at
get
me?
it.
This is how you can eat it. Here, you want to cut it in half, and you take.
That's smart. That's actually very smart. Can you give us a?
But I feel like it should be eaten like.
Yeah, I kind of want to do that too, actually. Wow, ASMR, dude. ASMR. Ready?
Let's go.
It's an acronym for something to do with sound.
Actually, so good.
I'm going in.
It's good. Thank you.
Oh wow, it is very good.
I would love to eat this in front of Sister Immaculata just to annoy her with the crunch. She's so sensitive with crunching.
Oh wow, this is amazing. Is she really?
Well, you took a deep enough bite.
Yeah,
I'm only on crunch right now. I'm eating my way through the
Have
cheesecake.
you seen those
I see the
like
pistachios
Chinese
in there.
Chinese influencers or like those who TikTok or
Yeah.
Instagram
When they sit with a plate this big and
And
they
they're
have the
just
noodles and
I feel myself right
that's
now.
called mukbang, I think.
Oh really?
Yeah. ASMR is when you have like the sound, like very yeah, sister.
It's good.
My mom always says my beard eats more than me. I bite, my beard grabs.
Just so that
Especially
people
with
can
these
see.
flavors.
But
They're like all
actually, you can.
Do you have the cheesecake there? Yeah.
And if you add more of that syrup on top of it, like from inside, it's so good.
You guys, this is on point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was really
It's
good.
really good.
Okay, so now you can say your thing that he wanted
Now
to
the
say.
pastors are like, it's okay, but we're going to still go for it. So those 12 promises are linked to the 9 First Fridays devotion. So
Are there 9 promises or?
no, there's 12 promises
for
but
9 Fridays.
Yeah, so what
9 months.
So I just want to say it's for like the Cliff Notes version for people who are watching this because it is for the Sacred Heart. Enthroning your house and putting an image, that's completely separate and it's a very beautiful thing. It's connected to it. So
Yeah.
that's one way to show devotion. So there's not like really one size fits all of devotion to the Sacred Heart. It can be in many different ways. There's so many prayers, but ultimately, if you wanted to do the promises and receive those promises, they have to do with 9 First Fridays that you have the active intention to go to confession, receive in a state of grace in reparation for all the outrages and sacrileges and all that is happening against our Lord.
Can you explain what reparation is?
Okay, I think I'll explain it. I'll explain it in like a simple way. Yeah. So basically, God.
I don't want to be rude and like.
Like he's talking about spiritual thing.
When I saw you go for a blind, I said, okay.
to pay back for, right? But really, there's others. It's like someone right now is withholding their love and their devotion. So you're someone that would be thinking in more of a saintly context would say, Lord. Almost like our Lord said, exactly. Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. Saint Stephen would have prayed that prayer right before he got stoned. He copied our Lord perfectly. It's someone saying, Lord, here, I'm putting this for them. Like, like someone that, let's say, that's the basket go by. Because like, the church is going to use it in the wrong way. They don't know they're giving to God. And whatever happens after that, it's a theological truth that they're giving to God right now. And God only sees the heart, like the woman's, 2 cents. And there are people who withhold their love to God that we say, please, God, like, I want to give in place of them until they come around. And I think that's what reparation is, doing penance for others and ultimately for ourselves because we are sinners as well. And it's not really like how the Jansenists took it. Like they really believe you have to be so rigorous and penance was like the only way to God's heart, and it's mortification and like those guys that they whip themselves and all that. It's really it's more of God, I'm doing this out of love for you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this devotion, if you do the 9 First Fridays, all that's happening, and I tell my kids this, the promises are the whipped cream and the cherry on top. They're not the substance, they're not the cake, right?
Yeah.
They're not. But the thing is like
The Shira.
Exactly.
Good connection, Father.
or finally a good pun. Yeah. The heart, they're not the heart
Okay,
of it,
there you
right?
go.
They're not the heart of it.
Yeah.
They are like the whipped cream and the cherry on top. But really what you're being called to is to be part of like the spiritual like Marines, if I want to say it that way. Like you're being called to a level of love that is more heroic than the average Joe. And God wants you to pay back for the average Joe that is spurning God's love at this moment. And I think all the saints figured that out and started to really lean into it because they realized that they're going to be paving a way for future generations to come back to God in an easier way.
And Margaret Mary, she suffered a lot from these apparitions, because she was seeing him and they thought she was clinically crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Back in the day,
she was being persecuted by her sisters. They would some of them would throw holy water at her. They thought like she was demonically oppressed.
Oh, wow.
And so they had Blessed Colombier.
Saint Claude de Colombier.
Thank you. Saint. He's a saint now.
He's a saint.
Yeah, he's a
Okay,
saint.
so one of the cool stories that I like he was testing her to see if she really is seeing Jesus. He said to her, "Go ask Jesus, what were my last sins that I confessed?" And she went and asked Jesus. She said, "Well, what was the priest's last sins that he confessed?" And Jesus says, "I don't remember." And so she went back. He said, "He doesn't remember your sins that you confessed." And he believed her.
Wow.
And he was appointed by the Mother Superior to investigate her because he was known for his wisdom and his saintly, just being like a holy man. And he was like, "No, she's authentic."
What order was she in?
Visitation.
Visitation.
Yes.
That's an order of nuns.
Visitation nuns, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
And friends.
I think it's Saint Francis de Sales. He's the one who founded this order.
Is he?
Yeah.
They're somehow an extension of the Salesians.
No, the Salesians were started by Saint John Bosco.
Which he took his spirituality.
It's kind of confusing because it's called
from the Sales. I think one of the reparation, as Christian, we can do, and Catholic devoted to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. I remember one time we met a nun from different orders that on Thursday or Friday they do a holy hour in reparation for all the offense that are against the heart of Jesus on weekends. Because weekends are like a very luxurious time. A lot of people will really probably are very relaxed, or we all know like on weekends when someone is free, a lot of people, especially in our society, that go to wrong places, do wrong things. As a Catholic devoted is, especially on Friday, is to dedicate or to pray for all the offenses that are against the heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mother Mary.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And one plug I want to make is there's a version of Revelation, which I never knew about until I got this app called Intercede. It used to be called Pray. Now it's switched to Intercede. And it's a novena app. And there's a version of Revelation, right? And I read the story of how this apparition came about, 1947. Unbelievable story. And it has to do with, and I don't want to say the whole story. I want people to like look it up. The version of Revelation. And basically, there was a guy who wanted to leave the Catholic Church. And he had a whole homily about Mother Mary. She's neither nor immaculate or ever virgin. He was writing it. And he took his kids to the park on the day he was writing it because he wanted more time. They're kicking the soccer ball and the soccer ball disappeared. They're like, Daddy, there's no more ball. And that's when they said, beautiful lady, beautiful lady. And he tried to move them for a long time, like an hour. They would not move until the veil was lifted for him. And he saw our Blessed Mother. And she said, like, enough, return to the fold, which is the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And this guy had a conversion. But what is the catalyst of the conversion was that his wife said, I'll leave with you, the Catholic Church, but please do the 9 First Fridays. So it'll take him 9 months to leave. He said, fine. For his wife, he did it. 9 First Fridays. I don't know if he did it right or well or anything, but when it says everything will be given for your like salvation, like, and I think for this man, he needed like a really, really big wake up in order to get off the track that was going to be so anti-Catholic and anti-Marian and all of that our Blessed Mother appeared. And it was after the 9 First Fridays. So I see a connection to that. It's just kind of cool. It's more anecdotal. I understand that. But if you look up the Virgin Revelation, actually it comes from this devotion that his wife kind of forced him to do. And he's like, fine, I'll do it for you. And he, it's crazy.
God worked. Thank you. Thank you for the cheesecake.
You got to eat your baklava cheesecake.
I will.
Me and Father Simon just demolished ours.
Yeah, dude. Huh, sister?
It's good.
We can help you with that. We can help you with it. Don't worry.
No, I'm not going to share.
Oh.
Yeah,
She doesn't share
no.
You're going to take
It's
it?
just like I wanted to sit alone and eat it so I can eat it.
Okay. So you can, you know what? You can actually, there's a couple extra here, so please take them home. Seriously.
Akid?
Yes, 100%.
All right, thank you.
Come on, I want you to.
Okay, thank you.
You know, okay, look, how about we give Andrew that half, and then you guys take these.
No. Do reparation.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Father.
sisters,
It was a
for
pleasure.
joining us.
brother.
Thank you, brother.
It's beautiful.
We'll see you guys for episode 50. That's our next episode.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.